Hello and welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium for our coverage of round 6 of TCR Europe 2019. If you were with us yesterday, you will have seen an incident-packed race 1, and the stories continue today. We are on air slightly later than we planned, and our apologies for that. But an incident in qualifying for the GT Open Series caused a lengthy red flag delay, and barriers had to be repaired. And so that's why we are about 25 minutes behind our schedule. But at one stage, it was looking like we'd be something like an hour late. So many thanks to the marshals here at Spa for getting us back on track. 34 cars entered this weekend. We have 33 of those 34 on the grid today. The non-starter, again, if you were with us yesterday on the final lap, you'll have seen Lilou Wadou. There you see car 44, the Peugeot, rolling into retirement in a very dramatic-looking accident. We're pleased to report that Lilou is fine. She was taken to the Circuit Medical Centre, then to the hospital for a check, but she is fine, unlike the car. And so the car has been withdrawn, and so Lilou Wadou just a spectator for this second round here at Spa. Several drivers we didn't really get a chance to talk about yesterday in race 1. And fingers crossed we'll have time to talk about them today. A few frustrating performances yesterday, a few incidents and a few retirements to talk about. But we suspect that we'll have another busy 23-minute race to tell you all about. That's the man on pole position, Dusan Borkovic, who's had quite a subdued season so far by his standings, been involved in a few incidents, could really do with a win here. So far this season, 2 of his target competition teammates have stood on the top step of the podium. Matto Homola in race 1 at the Hungaroring, and then Josh Files 2 weeks ago at the Hockenheim round, race 1. David Kajaya, also a man to score his first victory of the season, and judging by the social media fans and followers, the 2 most popular drivers in the series are on the front row for this 6th round of the series. Borkovic there on the left of your screen, Kajaya on the right. We'll talk about the man who's won race 2 in both Hockenheim and Hungaroring in a moment. But before the race weekend, we knew that the Audis and the Peugeots should be good here. Jimmy Claret is on row 2, starting from 3rd on the grid, the older of the 2 Claret brothers. And Jimmy, in fact, in the last 10 minutes or so, has just taken pole position in one of the support races at the Peugeot 308 Racing Cup. So he's getting plenty of track time this weekend. What can he do from the 2nd row of the grid? Alongside Jimmy Claret on row 2 is the winner of race 1 of the season, which is Matto Homola. There he is in the target competition Hyundai. And you see briefly behind Homola, we'll see him in a moment on row 3 of the grid. That chap I was mentioning from France, who keeps winning race 2 of the series using the reversed grid to great effect. As we keep saying, the Hyundais are quite heavy here, and so we do wonder if the Peugeots will be making a fairly rapid start off the start line. The grid is already being cleared. We are up against time a little bit because of getting back onto schedule. And that's the man I was talking about, Julien Brichet, a rather battered-looking Peugeot after his major off in free practice 2 on Friday. Julien Brichet, winner of race 2 in Hungary, winner of race 2 in Hockenheim. What can he do from 3rd on the grid? Alongside Brichet, Aurélien Comte in yet another Peugeot, so 3 Peugeots in the top 6. There is Aurélien Comte, quite frustrated to lose out on 3rd place yesterday on the final lap, overtaken by Maxime Potty in the Volkswagen. A little tap between the pair, Comte complaining afterwards he didn't think that it was particularly fair, but Potty using his local knowledge and determined to finish on the podium. Ash Sutton, hugely frustrating for him yesterday, had a problem with the steering wheel on the start line. You'll remember he was pushed off the start into the pits and then started from there. An electrical problem meant that he couldn't actually use any of the controls on the steering wheel. So fingers crossed, a better start today for Ash Sutton, former BTCC champion. Confirmation, though, of the grid. Row 1, Borkovic and Kajaya, Jimmy Claret and Matto Homola, row 2, Julien Brichet and Aurélien Comte, row 3, Sutton and Maxime Potti, row 4, Urrutia, Santiago Urrutia and Gilles Magnus, our race winner from yesterday on row 5, row 6, Andreas Beckmann, Teddy Claret, Ollie Kangas and Tom Coronel, row 7, Gianni Morbidelli and Luca Enchler, row 8, Stian Paulsen and Dan Lloyd, row 9. Row 10 is Nelson Ponciatici and Danny Nage, Nathan Biel and John Filippi on row 11. Row 12 is Jessica Beckmann and Luca Filippi in the Hyundai, Tamas Tenka and Gavrilov from TCR Russia on row 13. Al Khalifi and Martin Rieber on row 14, Maribo Coppens and Lewis Kent from TCR UK on row 15, Vontaja and Davidovsky on row 16. Then right at the back of the grid, the man who dramatically had his car repaired in no short order yesterday, Josh Files, came here as championship leader. Big issue in qualifying, went off, virtually destroyed the car. The target competition guys rebuilt it, but there was a question mark over the engine. Files retired yesterday, not because of that engine problem I mentioned, but because of a puncture contact up at Les Combes. And so the team electing to change the engine in the Hyundai overnight just in case. To be honest, it only cost him one place on the grid because, of course, the engine change will drop you to the back of the grid. And so Files electing to go for that engine change and see what he can do from the back of the grid. He made up something like 12 places on the opening lap yesterday before the safety car came out. What can he do today? He really needs to get up into the points. And then next round in 5 weeks' time is at the Red Bull Ring, which is one of his favorite circuits. And so he should be able to strike back there. Spa this year and last, not a happy hunting ground for Josh Files. So then, around 25 minutes later than we'd planned, the cars set off on their green flag lap. Dusan Borkovic in the target competition Hyundai leads the cars round. There is our race winner from yesterday, Gilles Magnus, on home ground in the Come To You Audi RS3. And it was a 1-2 for Audi with Santiago Urrutia in the WRT Audi alongside him, and the team having 2 cars on the podium because Maxime Potti, there he is in the orange and grey Volkswagen, weaving to side, the number 88 car finishing third, as I say, grabbing third on the last lap by passing Aurélien Comte. You can see the heat haze there. It's a warmer day than yesterday, a stiff breeze blowing across Spa yesterday. But as ever, when you're at Spa, the rain is never far off. GT Open yesterday, their race ended behind the safety car and an absolute deluge. And I'm looking up out of the commentary box as I say this, looking towards where the weather is coming from. And there's a fair amount of cloud, but fingers crossed it will stay dry for this race. 23 minutes plus 1 lap. And Josh Files, nothing to lose really from the back of the grid. Can he get up into the top 15, possibly even higher to score points? And will Target Competition take their 3rd race win of the year? Borkovic certainly has the ability, but does he have the car underneath him? Because everybody else has a lot lighter car. Kajaya, we know, is a potential race winner. He won in the Alfa Romeo in TCR International and is looking for a good result here. But the Peugeots are the, I suppose, relatively unknown here at Spa. We know that they've been quick all weekend so far. Claret, Brichet and Comte starting from 3rd, 5th and 6th. They, I suspect, will be the ones to watch at the start. There is Claret, Homola, and then the black front end of the repaired Peugeot 308 of Julien Brichet. The cars then making their way round up towards the chicane. just weaving to get the heat into the wheels and tyres. And we are probably a minute or two away from the start of this 6th round of TCR Europe. There is Tom Coronel, if you're a social media follower. Tom posting videos all weekend, and in fact his onboard lap, if you've not yet seen it, a very good way of seeing Spa, with Tom, always a character, talking you around the lap and even admitting to a few missed apexes. And if we're on the subject of social media, also give Stian Paulsen a follow. His video blogs are well worth it, very entertaining. Andriana Borkovic, big smile as ever from her. The baby is also here this weekend, and Dusan in fact carrying little Sophia around the grid walk on Thursday night in a little harness. And so Sophia, only a matter of a few months old, has already done the grid walk here at Spa. So then, a few moments away, we're just waiting for the final few cars to come around the chicane. There we saw briefly Lewis Kent. There is Josh Files. And so we're moments away then, waiting for the green flag from the marshal at the back of the grid. 33 cars line up for this second race here at Spa-Francorchamps. All are in position. Lights are on, lights are off. We're looking for a good start from the Peugeots, but indeed it's Homola who slots his way through. And what has happened to Kajaya? Absolutely nowhere. A problem for David Kajaya from second on the grid, but immediately Jimmy Claret is right up behind Dusan Borkovic as they thread their way through La Source for the first time. Bitter disappointment for David Kajaya fans watching from Georgia. What has happened to their hero? Through Eau Rouge and up Radillon for the first time. Martin Rieber takes to the runoff area, slots in behind the Sol Renault of John Philippi, as Jimmy Claret takes a good look around Dusan Borkovic. Homola now third. The two Peugeots of Julien Brichet and Aurélien Comte side by side. A little nudge involving Danny Nage. And he just takes to the escape road at the first of the Lecombe trio. Oh, an incident involving one of the Mira cars, I think it is. And Danny Nage, I mentioned a few moments ago, having to cut the corner, and it is Danny Nage in the barriers in the Mira Hyundai. Yellow flags out then. Will we see a safety car deployed? And the safety car has been put on standby, we're told. So potentially a safety car here then. Hyundai leads Peugeot. Hyundai, Peugeot, Volkswagen, which is Sutton, ahead of Volkswagen Potty, the two teammates from WRT. Slightly different cars. Hopefully I'll get a chance to explain that in a moment. 6/10 the lead from by Borkovic over Jimmy Claret. Still no deployment of the safety car. Borkovic then, Claret, Homola, Brichet, Sutton, Potty, Comte, Urrutia, Magnus and Andreas Beckmann. That's your top 10. As Jimmy Claret flashes his lights as they come down towards the chicane for the first time. All safely through, just under 4/10 of a second. Borkovic leads Jimmy Claret. Then it's Homola, Brichet, Sutton, Ash Sutton, former BTCC champion, up into 5th place as Tom Coronel gets a tap going through La Source. But recovers, heads down the hill towards Eau Rouge. And Jimmy Claret right with Dusan Borkovic, and Brichet is right with Homola, battling for third. We've already got some scraps on our hands. Ash Sutton in the background. Now, I did say I was going to mention the differences between the two Volkswagens. Ash Sutton using the common ECU, the electronic brain in the car, to continue the development work that's being done on that ECU, whereas Maxime Potty has the standard Volkswagen ECU. So Hyundai leads Peugeot, and Hyundai leads Peugeot. That's the two battles for the lead and for third place, as there's a little puff of smoke from Borkovic. Let's just take a look back at the start. On the right of your screen, you can see that Kajaya moved and then ground to a halt and then started to move again. So what the issue is, I don't know, but that's hugely disappointing for David Kajaya. And there was also somebody who moved. Was that Aurélien Comte, I think, who moved on the grid? The stewards may well be looking at that. So from that angle, it did look as though Aurélien Comte jumped the start. And unsurprisingly, the incident involving Danny Nagy is under investigation. As we look once again at Jimmy Claret, just taking a look at Dusan Borkovic. Now this is where Danny Nagy went straight on. Now what happened to Nagy? Take a look at the back of your shot. And was it? Because it looked like the other Hyundai, that of Luca Filippi, that was in about the right place to have some kind of involvement in that incident. So Borkovic then, having stretched out his lead to just over a second over Jimmy Claret. In fact, the gap just under a second as I say that. Homola still third, Brichet fourth, Sutton fifth, Potty sixth, Comte seventh, Andreas Beckmann now up to eighth, Santiago Urrutia ninth, and Gilles Magnus 10th. And in the remainder of the points positions, it's Teddy Claret 11th, Tom Coronel 12th, Gianni Morbidelli in the West Coast, Volkswagen 13th. As Comte and Potty are scrapping for 6th place. Comte goes past Potty, and right behind him is Andreas Beckmann. So Aurélien Comte passes Maxime Potty. The battle in the background still going on. And the two fights for the podium position still very much going on. There is Ash Sutton, there is Comte. Beckmann now also past Potty. Oh, and a little touch between the pair as Brichet goes through. Brichet picks his moment, goes up the inside of Matto Homola, and so third place changes hands. Two Peugeots now in the top three. Can Brichet repeat his victories in race 2 in Hungary and race 2 in Hockenheim as Urrutia clashes with Gilles Magnus? This is the scrap for 9th place. Urrutia just edging out Magnus. And a little tap between the pair as Julien Brichet goes past Matto Homola into 3rd place. So Brichet sets off in pursuit of Jimmy Claret. Borkovic, though, opening up a decent gap. So there's the battle at the bottom end of the top 10. Urrutia 9th, Magnus, in fact, as I say that, Magnus just passes Urrutia for 9th. Urrutia 10th, Teddy Claret 11th, Coronel 12th, and we have a safety car. And so we have an interruption to this second race. Around 15.5 minutes of the race left. Borkovic must be wondering what he can do, because he's now got to manage the restart. Al-Khelaifi in the pits. It was Abdullah Ali Al-Khelaifi that caused that incident yesterday with Lilou Adou. There is an onboard video on social media, if you see it, that Khelaifi went off, came back on and collected Lilou Adou, who was pretty innocent in all of it, and rolling spectacularly into retirement. Debris on track, we're told, and the safety car will be taking the cars through the endurance pit lane. So that's the reason for the safety car while that debris is being cleared. Marshall's already on the case, and there is the safety car on the left of your screen, taking race leader Dusan Borkovic and the rest of the field down past the old pits here at Spa. Standing in those pits is actually quite eerie at times, with the memories and the ghosts of drivers, teams, cars of old going down the hill towards the flat-out left-right at Eau Rouge and up the hill at Radillon. And that is one of the M Racing cars of possibly Pontiac, just tucked behind the light gantry. Now, we said yesterday that Josh Files had made up something like 12 places on lap 1. Having started 33rd, he's done it again. 12 places up so far. Josh Files 21st at the moment. Needs to get into the top 15 to get points. And in fact, it's not Pontiac, it's Biel, his teammate. Nathan Biel is parked up, coming down the hill out of La Source, heading down towards Eau Rouge. And the medical car taking him round for a check over at the medical centre. Let's just recap then. There is Al-Khelaifi in the pit lane. He will be going no further. But 13 minutes gone of this race. Try that again. 10 minutes gone, 13 remaining of this race, plus the 1 lap. Dusan Borkovic, Target Competition Hyundai, car 62, leads by around 2 seconds over Jimmy Claret in the Claret Sport Peugeot 308. Julien Brichet, JSB Competition Peugeot in 3rd. Matto Homola, Target Competition Hyundai 4th. Ash Sutton, WRT Volkswagen Golf in 5th. Andreas Beckmann, another Target Competition Hyundai 6th. Aurélien Comte, Peugeot 7th. Maxime Potti, Volkswagen 8th. Gilles Magnus, Audi 9th. Santiago Urrutia, Audi 10th. Teddy Claret, Peugeot 11th. Tom Coronel, Honda 12th. Gianni Morbidelli, Volkswagen 13th. Dan Lloyd, Honda 14th. And Stian Paulsen in the Cupra is 15th. Now there you see that repeat of the start. And Aurélien Comte, to me, definitely moved before the lights went out. And David Kajaya, poor old David, having an appalling start. Some kind of technical problem in the Cupra, as once again we just relive some of the moments from the first stage of this race. If you're just joining us, things are running a little later than we'd planned because of an interruption to the GT Open qualifying session earlier. We currently have a safety car period after Nathan Biel's Hyundai went off on the outside of the track coming out of La Source. There is the incident. And Biel in the foreground being helped by the medical team and will be taken around just for a check over while the car is recovered. On the timing screen, the message that the safety car will once again go through the pit lane while Biel's car is recovered. The clock, though, continues to tick down. Let's talk a little more about Ash Sutton in 5th place currently. Ash Sutton, BTCC champion in 2017. Made an appearance in TCR Europe in Barcelona last year, finished on the podium in race 2. Is here pretty much as a one-off, but he does say that there's unfinished business in TCR Europe, but is helping Volkswagen with the development of this common ECU. And because of this safety car period, the Hyundai of Danny Nage can also be recovered. And it's interesting that Ash Sutton, currently 5th, and Maxime Potti, his teammate, in the Golf running the Volkswagen ECU, is currently 8th. So gathering useful data on that common ECU, which should be coming into play next year throughout the TCR world. As once again, and you can see there the debris being cleared up by the marshals, who, it has to be said, have done a brilliant job this weekend. There's been several incidents involving various TCR sessions and also some of the other support series, the GT Open, as I mentioned, having some fairly major barrier rebuilds over at Pouhon after their incident in qualifying this morning. So down the hill they come through the endurance pit lane, which will give the marshals working space. And indeed, it looks like Biel's car is already on the back of the transporter, just waiting to cross the track at Eau Rouge and through into the paddock to return the car to the team. And fingers crossed, Danny Nage's car will also be on its way back to the paddock very shortly. The field will be steadily streaming their way up the Kemmel Straight through Les Combes, and it's just coming out of Les Combes on the run down to Bruxelles, the right-hand downhill hairpin. That's where Danny Nage's car is stranded currently. Here they come then, into the right-hander at Les Combes. And there is Sutton. The car, incidentally, we've seen before. It's been used as a Volkswagen test car, but that car was used by Rob Huff in TCR International in 2017 when he drove for WRT Leopard. As some wag pointed out yesterday, is it the car that was used for the season before Salzburg Ring or after? And if you saw Rob's big accident at the Salzburg Ring, you'll know that definitely isn't the car that was used in the first part of the season. The field then streams past Danny Nage's car being recovered. Fingers crossed we will be racing very shortly. Under 7.5 minutes plus a lap of this 23-minute race remaining. Dusan Borkovic leads from Jimmy Claret, Julien Brichet third. And Brichet will be watching this restart very closely. He started from pole in race 2 in Hockenheim 2 weeks ago and took a lights to flag victory. But in race 1 at the Hungaroring, he did what he's doing this time, started further back, picked his way through the field and took the victory. Can he do it again here in Spa? The clock, however, is not on his side. It's continuing to tick down, although the safety car will be coming in this lap. So as they head down out of Blanchimont towards the chicane, the safety car's lights will be going off, and then it will be down to Dusan Borkovic to manage the restart, keeping one eye on his mirrors to see what Jimmy Claret is doing. And Claret, I dare say, will be doing the same about Julien Brichet tucked in behind him. But we are moments away from race 2 here at Spa, restarting. Safety car will be coming in this lap. And there is Teddy Claret, Tom Coronel. And indeed, safety car's lights are off. He's already heading off into the distance. And Dusan Borkovic putting some distance between himself and the safety car. And only he can decide when to bury the throttle and restart this race. Everybody bunching up, and it would appear that Borkovic is playing the waiting game, making sure that the safety car is well clear. Okay, here we go. Dusan Borkovic then takes the field through the chicane up towards the start-finish line to take the green flag. They're all bunched up nicely. Dusan Borkovic then gets this second race at Spa underway with a little over 5 minutes plus a lap remaining, and Claret goes with him. Jimmy Claret takes a little jinking look up the inside. Hard on the brakes around La Source. Borkovic, though, has the line. Claret runs very, very wide. Has Brichet sneaked past? He has. Second place then changing hands. Borkovic still leads, but it's now Julien Brichet ahead of Jimmy Claret. Fourth is Hommler, fifth is Sutton, sixth is Beckman, seventh is Comte. Through Eau Rouge and up the hill towards Radeon. Brichet, one aim now to get past Dusan Borkovic to claim his third victory of the year. He has a little look coming down the Kemmel Straight. And indeed, powers past as Jimmy Claret just takes a little look up the inside and taps Borkovic. Oh no, another problem for Borkovic. He's had all sorts of problems this year. He will be absolutely livid. And we'll need to take a look at that again, but Julien Brichet leads from Jimmy Claret. Matto Homola now third, Ash Sutton fourth, Aurélien Comte fifth, then Andreas Beckmann. Can Sutton get past the Hyundai of Matto Homola to record another podium finish? More importantly, can Julien Brichet hold off Jimmy Claret to take victory number 3 this year and send a very clear message? Now, look at Borkovic. And that was a tap from behind from Jimmy Claret. And will the stewards be looking at that, I wonder? They were under braking as Borkovic spins off backwards at the right-hander at the start of Les Combes. And Adriana, the look says it all. More bad luck for Dusan Borkovic. So Brichet then 0.8 of a second ahead of Jimmy Claret. Borkovic in close attendance, Homola in close attendance. And Aurélien Comte looking at the back of Ash Sutton's Volkswagen. Brichet pulling away. Track limits? What track limits? Aurélien Comte hard on the brakes now into the chicane. And right on the back of Ash Sutton's car. Andreas Beckmann also right up behind the pair. This drag down the start-finish straight to the right-hander at La Source. Sutton has the line. Just edges out Comte. There's Beckmann. There's Potty. And that's Dan Lloyd running wide in the 1-2-3 Honda. And indeed, confirmation on the timing screens that the incident involving Borkovic is under investigation. So Brichet, Jimmy Claret, Homola, Sutton, Comte, Beckmann, Potty, Claret, Teddy Claret that is, Gilles Magnus, Tom Coronel, Urrutia now out of the top 10 in 11th, Morbidelli 12th, Stian Paulsen up to 13th, Lloyd 14th. As we're looking at Aurélien Comte going around the outside of Ash Sutton, there's contact between the pair. Sutton though has the line. So Sutton comes back at him, they touch again, and Andreas Beckmann goes up the inside of the pair of them. Beckmann choosing his moment. So Andreas Beckmann, it would appear, would be up into 4th place. 6th to 4th in a couple of corners, while the contacts were going on between Comte and Sutton. And Borkovic, the unhappy Dusan Borkovic, back in the pits. Let's see where Josh Files is, 19th, so still 4 places to make up to get into the points. Just under a minute remaining of this race. And I suspect there will be 2 more laps. Brichet, Claret, Homola, Beckmann, Sutton, Comte, Potty, the other Claret, and then Gilles Magnus, Tom Coronel, Urrutia. Just confirmation on the left of your screen that Beckmann went from 6th to 4th when they were up coming through Les Combes. And somebody's rear bumper. Was that Dan Lloyd? And look at this gap that Julien Brichet is building over Jimmy Claret. So we had an Audi 1-2 in race 1. A little bit of bumping and banging involving Stian Paulsen and Urrutia, I think it was. Paulsen 12th, Urrutia 11th. Potty, currently 7th. Teddy Claret 8th. Gilles Magnus 9th. So then, for the penultimate time, they come Down through Eau Rouge, up Radillon. Teddy Claret just taking to the runoff area, comes back in alongside Gilles Magnus. So Brichet, our race leader, on course now for win number 3, as once again Ash Sutton and Aurélien Comte. Oh, and that's Tom Coronel pushing Stian Paulsen across the grass, and Paulsen into the barrier, but lucky not to be collected by anybody else as they came back across the track. We'll need to see that again. And Coronel tucked up behind Maxime Potty. And that's Gilles Magnus being bumped out. So the closing stages of this race, things are getting physical. The stewards, I think, will have their work cut out after this race. Maxime Potty then, Tom Coronel. Urrutia, Claret, Teddy Claret, and Lloyd, Morbidelli and Luca Filippi are at the bottom end of the point-scoring positions. Fastest lap in the race was set by Borkovic. Now, this is the moment that, very lucky not to be involved in an accident, Stian Paulsen. He was a passenger coming across the grass, and luckily, everybody avoided him. A fairly soft contact with the barrier, but unfortunately no points again for Paulsen, who's dropped down to 24th, 25th, and in fact he's out of the car. So retirement for Stian Paulsen, bitter disappointment for him. And Gilles Magnus also pulls up. Race 1 winner, and so no points for him as Julien Brichet. And I was expecting one more lap. Possibly he was as well, judging by the fact that there was no light flashing and celebration. Now they start the final lap. My timing screen had the checkered flag come up, which I think is a mistake. Graphic on the screen, I think, is correct, which is this is the final lap. Julien Brichet, 1.7 seconds ahead of Jimmy Claret. There's the battle for the final podium place with Homola and Andreas Beckmann. It's going to be a Hyundai, but which one? There's Sutton, there's Comte. And clear daylight between the pair as they come down the Kemmel Straight for the final time. There is our race leader. Incredible consistency from Julien Brichet, on course to win the second race of a race weekend for the 3rd consecutive time this year, using the reverse grid to perfection. And there are the two WRT teammates, Maxime Potty and Santiago Urrutia, with Teddy Claret just tucked up behind them. And this was Dan Lloyd just tapping Gianni Morbidelli, and Coronel also in the mix as they came through the chicane, with a couple of the cars taking to the escape road. And that is, again, Morbidelli in the 45 car. There's 46, that's Ollie Kangas in the other West Coast car, just as they head down the hill. And look at the damage to Coronel's car. And there have been a few incidents involving Tom Coronel, not least of which was that moment with Stian Paulsen. So Coronel dropping down the order, destined not to score any points in race 2 at Spa. So what does that mean for Files? Currently 17th, so frustratingly, Josh Files, despite that sterling effort to rebuild the car yesterday by the Target Competition team, Files, it looks as though, will not be scoring points. Let's keep an eye to see what he can do on this final lap. But Julien Brichet, look at that advantage, 2.2 seconds, as Julien Brichet comes around towards the chicane for the final time, and I think it's also too late for Andreas Beckmann to do anything about Matto Homola. So this is how it'll finish as Ash Sutton takes a lunge up the inside. Julien Brichet wins the race, his 3rd victory of the year from Jimmy Claret. Matto Homola finishes 3rd. And Claret almost coasting. I'm wondering if there's a... No, indeed. He's just backed off. Jimmy Claret, Homola 3rd, Beckmann 4th, Ash Sutton 5th, Aurélien Comte 6th, Santiago Urrutia 7th, Teddy Claret 8th, Luca Engström 9th, Luca Filippi 10th, Ollie Kangas in 11th, ahead of Morbidelli 12th, Dan Lloyd 13th, Tamas Tenka 14th, Martin Rieber 15th, and frustratingly, Josh Files came here as championship leader, finishes 16th and so outside the points. Gavrilov 17th, Jessica Beckman 18th, John Filippi 19th, Davidovsky 20th, Maribo Coppens 21st, Stefan von Tarja in 22nd, Maxime Potti 23rd, Lewis Kent, we've not really mentioned him much, 24th, and Tom Coronel. And that is the reason for Maxime Potti dropping down the order. We were watching the leaders come through, and Potti in the 88 car dropping all the way down to 23rd place. So, another incident-packed race here at Spa. After yesterday, we thought we'd be in for more of the same, and we weren't disappointed. Julien Brichet, though, what a drive. That's the third time he's taken victory in the second race of the weekend. And I'm sure the extra track time in the 308 Racing Cup hasn't hindered him, let's put it that way, here at Spa. Big smiles, congratulations from the JSB team. And you have to remember that that's another team who's had to rebuild the car after Julien's accident in free practice 2. And this is the moment at the top of Radion that Tom Coronel, who again lucky to avoid a more serious collision as he came back out onto the track. And whether he was assisted into that spin or was that just something that happened as the car goes light at the top of Radion, we'll find out after the race. But, not a bad old race, was it? In terms of touring cars, that's just what we've come to expect. Lots of elbows out, lots of little contacts, and more than a fair share of dramas. Julien Brichet then taking the victory from Jimmy Claret. Hyundai's 3rd and 4th, Homola and Beckman. And then, as I said, the remainder of the point-scoring positions, Kangas Morbidelli, Lloyd, Tamas Tenka and Martin Rieber, getting a solitary point for finishing in 15th place. Retirements, Gilles Magnus, as we saw, Stian Paulsen, Dusan Borkovic, Nelson Ponciatici, and the other M Racing car of Nathan Biel. Al-Khelaifi we saw at the beginning in the pits, and Danny Nage, and of course right at the beginning of the race, our first retirement was David Kajaya. So let's head down to the pit lane where Alfredo Filippone is with our race winner.
Julien Brichet, what a race, what a weekend difficult for you, but the end is perfect.
Oui, effectivement, pour nous, ça a été un week-end très compliqué, avec un gros crash vendredi aux essais libres 2, où j'ai eu la chance de pouvoir refaire la voiture avec une équipe de folie. On a tout refait pendant la nuit, ils ont été couchés à 6h30 du matin pour un réveil à 7h, c'était vraiment exceptionnel. Voilà, hier, j'ai eu malheureusement dans le choc, il y a un petit souci qu'on n'avait pas vu. Voilà, donc ça nous empêche de terminer la course. Donc là, c'est vraiment une belle récompense pour tout le monde. Voilà. T'as une petite pensée pour Lilou là, qui a eu un gros crash aussi hier à la course 1. Voilà, là en pleine forme. Donc voilà, c'est le principal. Voilà. Et en ce qui concerne la course d'aujourd'hui, c'était une course très compliquée car je partais assez loin. Voilà. J'étais déçu du safety car parce que la remontée c'était parti. Donc, mais après le safety car, j'ai vu qu'on pouvait gagner la course. Donc voilà, j'ai tout donné pour. Voilà, week-end qui se termine plutôt bien.
Well done, bravo.
Now, my French isn't what it should be, but I think we pretty much got the entire story of the weekend there. Okay, I think because of the shortened duration of the race, we are running out of time rapidly. That's the position then of the Drivers' Championship. Brichet moves into the lead of the series as we leave Spa. 2 busy races, I think you'll agree, 2 incident-packed races, and the discussion, the comments, the criticisms probably will continue for the next few weeks. We're back in action in 5 weeks' time at the Red Bull Ring. We'll see you then.